Hi everybody, I'm Professor Rad, and today we're going to talk about a measure of center called the midrange. So this is the third measure of center, or the third type of average that we'll be discussing. So let's go ahead and define it. So the midrange is the value that is halfway between the smallest and the largest values in your data set. So in the previous video, we looked at something called the median, which was also kind of a halfway point. So let's look at the difference. I'm going to do a little visualization so that we can see how the mid-range and the median might be giving us like different results. So I'm just going to kind of do this doodle up here. So let's say these are my data values. So I've got, 1, 2, and just pretend these are like spread out on a number line. So let's say these are my numbers on a number line, and let's see. Oh, let me make it an odd number just to make things a little bit easier for us. Put it in here. Okay, so if I'm looking for the median is the value that's in the middle. So we kind of go from the outside towards the inside, and we're matching up data points. Okay, so that would be our median value. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers to the right and 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers to the left. So it's the data value that's in the middle. For the mid-range, all I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at the smallest value and the largest value, and I want to find halfway between those. So think about folding a piece of paper in half. That's going to be the mid-range. So in this case, the mid-range would be a value that actually wasn't one of our data values in this case. It would be the value that's halfway between the two extremes. So even though the median and the mid-range both have to do with halves, they do look at halves in a different way. The mid-range looks at half of the interval, whereas the median looks at the middle value. So in order to find the mid-range, you're going to take the maximum value, that's the largest, and the minimum value, that's the smallest, add them up, and divide by 2. So let's go ahead and find the mid-range for the senators and representatives that we've been looking at. So we found 2 measures of center for these data sets already. We found the mean and the median, and now we're going to find the mid-range. So let's set up our senators here, and we'll do the representatives here. So what we need are the biggest and smallest values for the senators. So let's see, it looks like maybe 35 is the smallest. And I see some 75s. Oh, here's a 76. So that's going to be the biggest. So I'm going to add those 2 numbers together and then divide it by 2. So let's see, 6 and 5 is going to give me an 11. Carry the 1 and I get another 11. And then we divide that by 2. And let's see, I don't have my calculator handy with me today, so I'm kind of winging this. So let's see, that would be a 5 and another 5 and a half. So we've got 55 and a half years old. For the senators. All right, so now let's look at the representatives. So we want to find the biggest number, looks like 82 maybe, and the smallest number, out of 36. All right, so we're going to add those numbers together, 82 plus 36, and then we'll divide that by 2. So it's an 8 and an 11, divide that by 2, and that looks like 59 years old. So there we go. Those are the mid-ranges for our senators and our representatives. So one of the advantages to the mid-range is that you only need 2 values from the data set, the smallest and the largest. And it's a pretty easy formula. You just add the 2 and then cut it in half. One of the disadvantages that we're going to see about the mid-range is that when you only use the extreme values, you lose sight of this sort of picture. Right? So in this picture, notice how most of the data is clumped down here, but these 2 values up here make that mid-range get pulled over to the right a little bit. So that may or may not be something that you're interested in when you're summarizing your data. Let's go ahead and see how we can find the mid-range for data in a frequency distribution. So here we have the amount of money that a random sample of kids are getting from the tooth fairy. And in this case, when we're looking for the maximum and the minimum, we're looking not at the frequencies, but we are looking at our data values. So the smallest amount of money any of the kids got was $1, and the most amount of money any of the kids got was $20. So it doesn't matter that most of the kids got $5. I don't care. I care about the smallest amount of money in the data set and the biggest amount of data in the money set. Biggest amount of money in the data set. My goodness. So I'm going to add those 2 together, 20 plus 1, and then we'll divide that by 2. So we have 21 divided by 2. And so let's see, half of 20 is 10, and half of that dollar is 50 cents. So the mid-range for this data set is $10.50. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for our video about the mid-range. In the next video, we're going to talk about our 4th and final measure of center. And that measure of center is going to work for data that's words as well as data that's numbers. So we don't have to worry about like adding numbers or dividing by things. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, have a fabulous day. Bye, everybody.